Assalamu alaikum. This is a space for honest conversations, stories of the heart, journeys of becoming, healing, and returning. This is Hearts Connect. Hearts Connect is a space for reflection, honesty, and the quiet journeys that bring us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm your host, Sekina, and today's conversation is part of that journey. Let's begin. Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum, sister Aziza.
Walaikum salam, sis. Walaikum salam.
How are you?
I'm doing really well, thank you. Really well.
As Hearts Connect is all about looking at our journeys, understanding that life is never straightforward. It's never linear.
really
There's lots
isn't.
of ups and downs, twists and turns along the way. First of all, I'd just like to ask you if you can describe yourself in just 3 words. What would those words be?
I would say connected, honest, and I suppose with that honesty, I am direct.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. So obviously in life, so many things happen, and there are times that we need to be grounded to help us cope with what's going on. There's certain tools that we can possess. Can you just share with us some of the things that you would use as a way to help you remain grounded in the struggles of life? But how do you keep yourself centered? How do you maintain that composure?
And first place is Allah. Has to be. No matter where you are in your life, whether you're on the highest mountain or in the deepest valley, it has to be Allah. And it's interesting because there's this whole sort of debate about whether it's yourself that makes a change or if it's God or both. I believe we are co-creating whatever we're experiencing and whatever outcomes we have in our lives with the divine. So for me, it has to start with God. And in that process, you have to be able to be open to receive that guidance, open to look deep within, open to be in a space where you're just deeply honest with yourself and the divine. So it starts with God. And it's really tapping into that divine nature that we have inside of us, that we continuously deny, especially as Muslims. But absolutely, it's tapping into that divine element of ourselves that we are so disconnected with when things come. So that's the first place I start from. And sometimes that's just reflection. Sometimes that's just crying it out. Sometimes that's just observing. It could come in different shapes and forms, because I think sometimes when we're going through those places in life that are less easy, that are very difficult, we think we must do this, we must do, but actually sometimes, and a lot of the time, it's just slow down to look up. And that's where we start from.
SubhanAllah. You mentioned connection as one of the descriptions of yourself. What does connection look like for you?
Our connection. We were talking a bit earlier on, and I was describing to you. So one of the things I do, what I'm doing at the moment, is really becoming aware of my own strengths and my characteristics. And I'm reading a book by John C. Maxwell, and he says in there, choose something that describes your strengths in one word, and that is connection. And connection for me is so important. It starts with connection with yourself, connection with the divine, connection with each other, connection with people that you even just sit with next to on the transport. And energy is everything, whether you want to admit it or not. Like the air we breathe, it is absolutely everything. So connection determines how we show up in this world. Connection determines how we look at ourselves in the mirror and what we tell ourselves. It's so central to our very existence, because everything is connected. You get those moments that you think, oh my gosh, this is such a coincidence. Nothing is a coincidence. Nothing, because your energy is drawing something to you, but also it can be repelling something. It can be like you're holding something back that is due for you.
So you could repel what's for or against you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So connection for me is all the different levels and how we are able to combine those levels and also stay in alignment with our own values. Yeah. And I'm going to say it, it's being authentic. I know it's the word. So it's absolutely important that we do maintain the authenticity and that we don't say, oh, it's just, oh, because it is true. And with a lot of truth, there's a simplicity in the truth. And it's almost, oh, here we go again. But it's actually, that's just it. It's not complicated. You don't need a degree.
No.
That's the truth.
No.
Be authentic.
Connection is very important to you. How would you know when you're not connected? How would you know when you're feeling disconnected? What would it show like for you?
Yeah. So confusion, overthinking, doubt. Oh, procrastination. All those things that we do to sabotage ourselves. Yeah. For me, shows there's a disconnect, whether that's inside or with the things I'm doing, the people I'm around, because that's really important as well. But those are the signs. Almost that feeling of, oh, why bother? Not getting anywhere, am I?
Even apathy.
Absolutely. Apathy. So I'm not getting anywhere. Why bother go on this journey? It's not working. I'm putting the effort in and it's not getting anywhere. Or I'm trying to be close to that person and it's not working. Or that person is not good for me and I don't know how to tell them. All of those things that make you feel something is not right because your body talks to you all the time. So when you're in a situation, you see somebody, you're faced with a task, what's going on with your body?
We talk about the mind body connection, isn't it? We wonder why we're feeling a certain way.
Absolutely. Sometimes your body just like, what was that about? And it's not judging it, it's looking at what's about. You see somebody, one minute you're happy, you see them, you don't feel happy. So it's those signs that we are blessed with. And again, this goes back to Allah. Allah is giving us the tools, He gives us the problems. Let's not get it twisted. Gives us the problems because without the problems, we would just think everything's good. But He gives us the problems and the challenges so that we can call on Him and come closer to Him. It's real. It's real. Yeah. So He gives us the problems and He gives us the tools. And guess what? A lot of those tools are inside of us. A lot of those tools are inside of us. The resources, the internal resources that our Lord has blessed us with. When I've been through some really tough times personally at work, and you're going through these times like your world is crashing in. And I can tell you there's been times I've been on my prayer mat and I've cried and I've been like, Allah, why is this happening? And I know I shouldn't be asking why, but I'm asking you why in this moment because He knows what's on your mind and in your heart anyway. Right? And then you slow down to come up. And through the outpouring, whatever it might be, whether it's journaling, when I've gone through those challenging times and checked in on what is the lesson for me? What is it that you're trying to show me that I have not got yet?
Yeah, what I hear you're saying also is that awareness. What is it here that I need to learn, that I need to be aware of? What is it? Because there's so many things that we go through, and sometimes we might be going through lots of challenges, but we may not stop to actually look at that, or we might just try and ignore them.
I really believe it's when you go through the experience and then you have the reflection, that's where the wisdom comes in. So it's really important that when we do go through those challenges and experiences, work, personal, children, out there on even just little things like somebody pushing in front of you on the transport, that can really set people off. You're driving, you're in a car and somebody cuts you up. I'm like, chill, it doesn't matter. Maybe somebody will show you some grace. So it is really about when you are going through those challenging times to slow down, to come back up.
Is the end result of that acceptance? Is that what we're looking for? And through the reflection, we come to accept, okay, this is what it is.
Yeah. However, sometimes even though we accept it, we can still be just like, yeah, I'm accepting that somebody is that way, and but I don't like it. So there has to be a sense of, I read a book, been reading a little bit about surrender. Yeah. And it's the acceptance, and then it's really almost like I look at the surrender of the Mel Robbins has her let them theory. Yeah. And I love it because it's like I'm accepting who you are
Yeah.
and what the situation is, whatever it might be. And also I'm giving myself permission to let me show up how I want to be because I am choosing my response. So that surrender, there's acceptance, but you can say of judgment. The surrender for me is working on the judgmental side of it. Yeah. All right, I accept that maybe I haven't got the job that I want, but it's
No.
the judgment,
Mm.
and the self-judgment is harsh. It can be very harsh, and you'd never say that to a good friend,
Indeed.
and you may not even say it to somebody you don't like,
Indeed.
unless you have a moment of pure abandonment and you just say what's on your mind. But yeah, I think it's that element of judgment about what you have accepted. Yeah. So yeah, there is that point of accept because you can be in so much denial. Yeah, you can be in denial. Oh, he didn't hurt me, or she, or oh, sorry, he hurt me, and
That's one
yeah,
side. Yep.
he did that. That's his actions. This is the impact on me. How am I going to deal with that in terms of my responses to that situation, that person? How am I going to accept that person may not be good for me? And then how can I take away the judgment from that? It's an ongoing process, trust me. You don't do this overnight. This is how do I take the judgment out of it, making it right or wrong? It just is. So surrender for me, part of that journey, and I'm still learning about this, is accepting it and taking out the energy of the judgments, the energy of the negative emotions, the energy of what should have happened but didn't.
No, absolutely. And like you said, it's a lifelong journey of learning and discovery.
Yeah. And then you think you got there, and then something comes up in your mind, and oh no, it's still there. But I read something, and reading is so powerful. And what she said in her book is just because something comes up in your mind doesn't mean that there's something wrong with that. It's fine. If you've been through a life changing situation or just a significant event, sometimes things will just pop up. It doesn't mean that you haven't healed or move on. It's sometimes just pops up. But then you can choose how you play on that thought. You've been in a situation where thoughts come up and you're like, where did that thought come from? I'm like, I'm not even thinking about that. And something just comes in and interferes with your peace and your serenity. But it's what we do with the thought.
Yeah, because we cannot control these thoughts coming to us, but we can be ready, like, to protect ourselves. And I think being that preparation is very important, and knowing that it's going to happen. Allah says, do you think that you'll be left to say, I believe, and you will not be tested?
And also, sometimes you haven't dealt with something enough. So maybe there's just a bit more inquiry, self-inquiry. And sometimes also it might mean that you might need to take a little action because if it keeps popping up, you might think, okay, maybe there's something around here. I need to just reach out. Sometimes it's nonsense. There's a saying, don't believe every thought that comes, don't believe everything that you think. It's don't believe everything that you think because half of it is just nonsense anyway.
I think this goes to the whole idea of having free will, because the thoughts may come to us from wherever, but we choose what we want to hold on to. We choose what we want to.
And that comes from what's going, our values, our memories, all of our characteristics, all those things that we've been through that determines what we do in the moment. And you can change that. You can change that because you can change how you hold those memories. You can change your values. You can change your beliefs.
Nothing's set in stone. So, mashallah, you converted to Islam, mashallah. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey and how you deal with your spiritual journey, but also, like you said, your values and things like that make you? How do you balance those?
Yeah. I think there's been two defining points in my life. One of them is my conversion to Islam. And then the other one was when I started my life coaching journey. One was my spiritual journey. And the other was my opening to a whole new world of how I can show up just by changing this
That's all we have, really.
and linking it in heart and mind, heart, mind, and soul. So, in terms of my journey into Islam, it's pretty straightforward, actually. I think it is. But yeah, it's so when I was in college back in the day, I had a very good friend, Pakistani friend, and we were really close. I used to go home to her house, have lots of dinners, stay late. We used to study together, we were on the same course. And I just got to know her family, and her family just accepted me as I was. It was really lovely, really lovely. And then I think after some time of being with my friend, I just said to her, look, I'm not looking to become a Muslim, but I'm really interested in learning a bit more about Islam because I just really like the way the family values, the way, you eat a certain way and you do certain things, etiquettes.
No.
And at that time, I would have been probably about 19, 20 or something. It was when I was finishing uni. So I would have been just in my early 20s. And she gave me a book. I read the book. I was like, oh, this is very similar to Christianity. And at the time, I would have affiliated with being a Seventh-day Adventist, even though I wasn't going to church at the time. If anybody asked me what religion I was, it would have been Seventh-day Adventist. And again, there was a lot of similarities because of the not eating pork, not drinking. So some of the lifestyle elements were similar, dressing modestly. But I think for me, the defining factor that really convinced me was the position of Isa alayhi salam, really clear. And even hearing about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam took me a while. Took me a while to really love and believe in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the beginning. I believed him because he was the one that was telling me Allah was using him as a vessel to tell me that Islam is true. So I said, if the Prophet ﷺ is telling me this, I must believe in him. I will work on that. Yeah, I will work on that love and that connection and as I go along, but I have to believe. And it really was for me the clarity of Isa alayhi salam. And then the similarities as well with Christianity. So it wasn't taking me so far away from what I knew that it was unfamiliar and foreign in that sense. I like the modesty, like the community. I love the prayer. So when I actually decided to take my Shahada, there was an event at Brent Town Hall and they were also doing conversions on the stage. I wasn't into all that. It was just a bit too much for me. But what really, I was holding somebody's baby. She's a good friend of mine now. The lady had gone off to pray. And again, just leaving babies with random strangers. I was like, this is a trusting environment. This really is. And when I saw everybody praying, I was like, I want to do that. I'm like, I want to be doing that. And then I took my Shahada that night with my friend. Wow. That was not my intention. Or maybe it was my unconscious intention, but it wasn't like today's the day. But yeah, that's what happened.
So you saw them praying and you just felt that.
I felt that, yeah. But before that, I'd been practicing with the hijab, going to different events, reading more. I think it was Ahmed Dida at the time. Christianity versus Islam. It's very exciting. So yeah, so listening to Hamza Yusuf, I was being fed some things, and I think my absolute saving grace was meeting the lady whose baby I was holding was meeting her husband and the community. And they are still in my lives today. It's a very unique community that we have, and we've grown and we've followed our own paths, but we're still so connected. And I think that was at the Black Muslim Awards that was happening last week. It just demonstrated how we've matured in our own authenticity, but we can still band together for a common cause. So that really was my blessing, really meeting the community and growing in a safe environment without it being extreme. Because a lot of people that came into Islam in the 90s, there was a sense of being a bit extreme with certain things, especially the women, taking aboard quite a lot.
And you said that you read quite a lot as well. Where did that come about? Because you mentioned your coaching.
Yeah. So I've always liked reading. Back in my teenage years, it was Sweet Valley High. This, I used to go to the library and be like, which one am I on now? Honestly. So I've always been a bit of a reader.
No.
And I just love absorbing knowledge and then just seeing how it can apply to me. And I think that also stepped up and changed when I got into the personal development world through my coaching. And then it was just all personal development and growth. So my interest for reading, I love words. I really love words. But I also like simplicity. And I think this is where, again, so we talk about the doubt. So you see that there was a doubt that came in here. I wish. Why would I wish for that? Because the way I'm communicating and the way I'm relating is obviously resonating with myself and other people. So you see how in a word, in a moment, sometimes in humor, we can actually be putting our inner selves down.
Catch yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it's just catch it. And yeah, so my love for reading, it's just, I love to hear other people's thoughts. I love to absorb the knowledge. I love to see how I can actually implement that. And often, what I found is that when I'm reading something, it resonates exactly with where I'm at. So you see, when Allah want to help you, it comes through so many different avenues. People, you read a passage, you're like, oh my gosh, how did that person, but I didn't know that. It just comes to you. So I just, words are like magic. Dare I say it? Dare I say it? They are like magic. They can cure and they can kill. They can cause peace and they can cause wars. All right. And so the power of the word, we can't underestimate it. And I think there is something so wonderful about reading words that resonate with your heart and your mind. So I do love to read, and I do have quite a few books that still need to be read. I've got some wonderful books at home, and quite recently, those books I need to be referring to for this reason. So sometimes it's not for now, it's for later. It's okay. That's okay. I think I went for a period of time where I'm like, you have to read every book to justify everything you've got on your shelf. No, you might just need it there as a reminder, refer to later, or maybe just a passage or two. But I absolutely love reading. And I think that with the onsurge of social media, whilst I do appreciate podcasts, which is what we're doing now, I think it's amazing because it appeals to all the different ways we learn. Sometimes it takes away that attention you would have for reading a book and opening a book. And yeah.
Now, I love what you said about using clear words, because even the Prophet ﷺ, he used brevity. So he didn't explain things in big ways. He would be clear and direct and to the point. And SubhanAllah said that's from the Sunnah. But also, I really love the fact that the books that you've been reading are very much to do with the self, isn't it? Psychology, if you like, and that's important to know thyself.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't underestimate that. Again, the know thyself, 3 words. How impactful is that? Yeah.
So is that what kind of drove you to go into that field, if you like, or what was it?
There was a point in my life I was going through a very low point, and I listened to an audio by Tony Robbins, and it blew my mind. Like, basically, the message is when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I was like, really? I was like, so what if I just change the way I'm looking at the same situation I'm in, which wasn't very uplifting? It was very, I'm under a lot of stress, feeling very disheartened. What's going on here? And just knowing I could change by the way I'm thinking, it's just amazing. So I think it's those defining moments that just said, just keep going. Just keep going, find those books, find those resources that will help you to keep learning. And then my journey with coaching back in 2011, I started that. So that's been an ongoing journey.
I love what you just said, because it really gives us the power right in our hands. So whatever we're going through, we can have some sort of say.
Yeah.
And husnul dhan, Allah is in the opinion of his slave. If he thinks
Mm.
good, he will find that. If he thinks otherwise, he will find that.
Yeah.
Or she. So yeah, that reminder is very powerful.
It really is. And we are reminded time and time again when we turn to Allah. Allah is waiting for us or wanting for us to turn to Him.
Mm.
And then He comes even faster towards us. So whether it comes through you reading Quran, being in the mosque, personal development, caring for your children, whatever it
Sitting with
might
people,
be,
gatherings, yeah.
whatever it might be,
Yeah.
whatever it might, I will give you what you're seeking. However, if you're seeking something unconsciously that's not good for you, whether it's good or bad, you will get it. And that's the piece there that we need to really understand. So the more we say we don't want something, the more we're bringing it to us because we're focusing on that thing. So when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, it can also change into something else you don't want because that's the power. It's duality. Up, down, light, dark, in, out. This life is filled with duality. It's been like that from the beginning of time. Cain and Abel. Cain was going to kill his brother. Yeah. So it's this struggle between human beings has always been there. And then the story of the Prophet Musa, who's asked to sacrifice his son, Ibrahim. That faith. And you might say, well, why would God ask him to do it? It's a test of faith. It's a test of faith. And then when Prophet Musa did all of that, leading his people out of slavery and everything else, and then came down to see them doing what they were doing after he received the Ten Commandments. Test of faith, yeah? And even we are ungrateful. Look at that, releasing from a whole slavery, and we are still ungrateful. I just wanted to bring it home that in this perspective, Viktor Frankl, who was one of the in the Jewish camps, he was a prisoner in Jewish camps, lost everything in the most heinous way possible. And his powerful words about a man's search for meaning, they can take away everything else from you apart from your ability to choose your own way. And after that period of time, he became one of the most famous psychotherapists. Phenomenal, absolutely. And you think you're put through that where you're reduced to less than, and you still were able to find the meaning that you were able to stand on.
How does someone get to that point though? It is hard when you're in a very difficult situation not to feel like a victim, not to feel
absolutely
like, why is this happening to me? What did I do? I'm a good person. So how do we, is it that awareness? How do we come out of that? Because that is quite a low point to be in. But sometimes we need to be at the low point in order to rise. We need to actually be there in order to.
Sometimes we need to sit in it. It's like that long bus ride. Sometimes you just need to sit on it, wait it out. Sometimes you need to get up and do. Sometimes it just really depends. I don't think there's any one answer for it. And I think that's the problem with our society today. We're trying to find quick wins. And these fixes that apply to the whole of the population, but not take into consideration where people are starting and what people have.
Indeed.
So what solution will work for you may not work for me. Yeah, so the best way I can probably answer that is being able to be with whatever it is that you're going through right there and then. And that goes back to that acceptance. Yeah, acceptance, working on that non-judgment, working on that wisdom, working on that surrender in whatever way that might suit you.
But I think something that we can all agree on is the whole idea of judgment and judging oneself.
Yeah. And that's where it starts.
It's so easy to do.
Oh, and we do it.
To berate the
Oh my days, we do it so often, even without consciously saying the words. We're constantly doing it. So if we do that to ourselves, what are we expecting from other people? What are we expecting from the world? It's got to start from within. The inner leadership is paramount. The inner, that inner eye, and then coming outwards, as opposed to coming outwards and then starting out and then coming inwards, which is what social media is encouraging us
To be
to do.
validated.
Yeah.
I need people to agree with what I say before I can.
Or how I look, how
Mm.
I present, what I say, what I do. It's happened without our permission. It's happened without us being consciously aware of it until it just becomes normal. That external validation.
Yeah, it's just
Mm.
the way it is. But going back to the whole idea of starting with the self, because there's a very big difference between being vain and loving yourself and showing that I don't care about what anyone thinks, and having the true
Yeah.
non-judgmental ideas and really being real with oneself. How is there a way to really see the difference? Because there are people out there who are very confident and yet they're not getting the result. They're still perhaps unhappy deep down, but on the surface they look like, hey,
Yeah.
all good here. There's nothing to see here. So how do we see if we're falling into that and not really being real with oneself?
I think it starts with where you are getting that validation from. Yeah. So an external emphasis on the validation and you're keeping up when you're keeping up a facade, it's the classic, how are you, sis? Alhamdulillah. And inside you're cracking, you're breaking. And I get we say alhamdulillah because it's life, but there's some people that have those sayings and it's a spiritual kind of bypassing. Yeah.
I love that word.
Yeah, it's a spiritual bypassing of how you ain't feeling good.
Mm.
You ain't feeling good. Doesn't mean you must tell everybody your business, but just to be able to say, you know what, sis, I'm not feeling great today. You know how empowering that can be without going into your story. Not feeling too great today, but I am so grateful for life. Just dealing with some stuff. I emphasized how I'm feeling good and happy and content despite the challenges. There's things that I need to sort out. There's things that are still need to be manifested. There's things that I'm still working on. And I'm happy and content. And that for me, and this is for me, comes from my belief in Allah and tapping into that divine energy that I have within myself. Because I know I'm co-creating my experience with my creator. It goes hand in hand. Because you can pray all you want, but if you sit down on your settee, sit down in your bed, sit in your house and do nothing, your du'as won't work for you. So it's a co-creative relationship that I have with God.
Yeah, that says, yeah, when you said that, what I hear is where it says in the Quran, those who believe and do good deeds, who believe and do good deeds. So it's constantly alladina amanu wa amilu salihat. So we have to do the good deeds, even the way we think is a good deed, isn't it?
Absolutely. Again, going back to that energy. So when you're looking at your sister, when you're looking at your brother, even if you're not saying anything, what is the energy you're giving them? What is that? What are you, and are you taking responsibility for that, or are you pushing it outside of yourself? Because how you see the world and how you take on board people is only a reflection of what's going on inside of you. I know, but it's true. And I think this is this thing of taking responsibility because you can't control anybody else's behavior. You actually can't. And there are so many situations where it's just a matter of opinion. And if you're thinking something about a situation or a person, then that's coming from you and your perspective. Remember, change the way you look at things and things you look at change. That's your responsibility. It doesn't mean you're validating anybody's bad behavior or atrocities in the world.
No.
So it's not about that. It's about how you are able to function through your own filters and perspectives that you have in the world.
Yeah. It reminds me of something that I heard a long time ago about those boundaries, that knowing where you stop and where someone else begins.
And that can change, isn't it? That's constantly moving. It's constantly moving.
And of course, what Brené Brown says, Dr. Brené Brown, the stories we tell ourselves constantly all day long. So be mindful of those.
Absolutely. I've been dealing with relationships at work. And I really had to step back and say, okay, so what are you seeing here that needs to be dealt with inside you? Because you're not going to change that person. You are not going to change that. Again, it's not about accepting unacceptable behavior.
Yes.
However, there is a lot of behavior that is just a matter of opinion. That's my perspective of the world, and that really helps me to see things in a different way. And by changing my perspective, by changing my intention,
Mm.
and thinking more, less as a victim and more as a participant in this game.
Less of a victim, more as a participant.
Participant.
Mm.
Victim is more, oh, why are they doing that to me? Is a participant is like,
Okay, I've
in the game,
yeah,
I'm a player.
I can do
I'm
something.
on the court.
Mm.
What can I do here? And what do I need to humble myself to?
Could also be
And
that.
what can I learn here? This too shall pass. Another day will come and go.
No.
God give you life, and this will be a memory. What memories do you want to carry forward with you? Again, as I speak about this, I must emphasize this is not overnight. This is an ongoing inquiry. And curiosity is what's going to get rid of your excuses. That's what I've written about in my journal. Yeah, that being more curious rather than thinking about the excuses of why somebody's like that, why I can't do something, whatever is limiting me, whatever the belief is, that's really helping me being curious about it.
Yeah, because there's so much that we can do. And sometimes we do limit ourselves thinking that, but I can't do this, I can't do that. I don't have that network around me, or I don't have X, Y, and Z. Don't have the money or the funds or the ideas and knowledge. But
it was emphasized that the wealth and the things that you have is not your reflection of abundance, about peace of mind. That's and contentment. That's what is the true abundance. Doesn't mean that you can't work and have nice things.
No. No.
But the reflection of that true abundance is the peace of mind. And so that word connection, peace of mind within myself, peace of mind and heart between other people, and helping others through the work that I do to have peace of mind within themselves. So it is so many different levels and different dimensions. It's, yeah, again, part of the journey.
And I love this because I think the biggest thing I'm taking away that I'm resonating with is the whole idea of the non-judgmental aspect of it, because it's something that it can be so slight that you don't even notice you're doing it. And you wonder why you're getting the same tested over and over again to different people, but it's the same thing essentially. And yeah, that judgmental, sometimes we do it thinking that, but I'm trying not to be humble. I'm not being humble, but I'm being harder on myself actually. But no, I think not being judgmental is so important, because at the end of the day, we want to be compassionate, isn't it? Compassionate to ourselves.
I love, thank you for saying that, because I think the medicine for not being judgmental is the compassion. Thank you. That is such an important word, the self-compassion. Be compassionate on yourself. You've been through something. All right, be compassionate on yourself for what you're going through when you make a mistake. Be compassionate, be patient, be your own best friend.
And that doesn't mean that you let yourself off the hook. There are times that you're going to say, oh no, but I did the best I could with what I knew at the time, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the distinction with compassion is the difference between being nice and kind. And so think about it when you're being with somebody. So how do you know someone's being compassionate with you? How do you know when they're just simply being nice? Good to see you. When they're really being kind and they've given you that attention, and they can really feel that you're with them in that moment, and they're still giving you the same salams. So there is, for me, that compassion. Again, you turn it in on yourself and think, am I just being nice to myself? Or am I being kind to myself? Really kind to myself. Yeah. And sometimes that niceness can be a sugarcoat for some not very nice behaviors underneath. So it's just looking at things in a dynamic way to get the result that you want.
No, you've really given us so much to think about when it comes to connecting with the self, having that compassion for the self, having that non-judgmental thoughts. Because, like, for instance, when we see someone that's being quite harsh towards us or towards someone else, we know that they must be quite harsh on themselves. It's obvious.
It's obvious.
You really don't like yourself very much, do you?
Absolutely.
Let us leave people inshallah, in the best state. But it comes from doing it to ourselves. So let's always try to have those kind thoughts to ourselves and really look at the self as almost another entity, almost as you would someone else. You'd be really kind to. Thank you for staying with us for this conversation on Hearts Connect. These stories don't end when the episode does. They continue in how we reflect, return, and grow. You can watch full episodes on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, may your hearts always stay connected. Ameen.